Hi guys, so this is going to be a quick recap of what we discussed around that keyword, how to analyze a film structure, right? Keyword in your question, you need to understand what exactly it means, okay? So analysis is far more than just describing what's happening in a scene. You have to move beyond a surface level and you have to go for deeper meaning and deeper cinematic significance, right? So let's have a look at what analysis actually means. The first part of it is describing. So it's what you're seeing on screen, okay? It's the foundation of your analysis. But the next level there is to explain. What do we mean by that? It means how do these elements work together? We unpacked the director's choices and their intended purpose. Why did they use this angle? Why this color? And this is where the interpretation begins. And finally, it's the evaluation. So, what is the broader significance of what we're seeing here? This is where we connect the technical choices to themes, the character development, the film's philosophical questions like Baudrillard and Plato's allegory of the cave that we've discussed previously. It's where we put everything together and we really shape up the structure of our essay in terms of how we're answering that question. So it moves beyond what you're just seeing. It's demonstrating that you understand why it actually matters. Now, let's go into what analysis is definitely not. It's not just a plot summary. Okay, so if you're just summarizing the plot, you're not analyzing. If you are spotting techniques, you're also not analyzing. Okay, you have to go far beyond that. These are elements of analysis, but they are not analysis in entirety. So when we look at analysis and what it actually is, let's break it down. We go into technique. So we're talking about lighting, sound, color, props, camera movement, camera angles. Then we go into purpose. What was the director's intended purpose? Why did they choose this? What are they trying to communicate to us through this technique? Then, for audience effect, what effect did it have on the audience? Okay, how did it manipulate or encourage the audience to see certain things, to understand certain things the director was trying to convey? And finally, the themes. What are the broader philosophical, social, narrative significances here? What are these moments that we're discussing? How do they connect to the central ideas, the central themes that are being carried forward by the directors in this movie? So when we weave all of these elements together, we're constructing a coherent analytical argument. Okay, then we show that we truly understand on a much deeper level what analysis actually is. So let's have a look at a case study here. So the question for this purpose is analyze how color was used to show an important idea in the matrix. Now, this over here would be insufficient. The red pill is bright red and the blue pill is cool toned. Neo has to choose between them. None of you did this. This is far too simple. It's very rudimentary. But this over here doesn't meet the requirement. Right? That is not analyzing. Uh, let's have a look at what analyzing would look like. So the Wachowskis employ a color contrast. The red pill radiates with warmth and danger, while the blue pill will emanate with cool tranquility to symbolize the choice between painful truth and comfortable illusion. Okay, the directors chose to use these to show the symbolic nature of this choice that they have. And then finally, the contrast forces the audience to experience Neo's decision, embracing the harsh reality or remain in blissful ignorance. Okay, the colors, they connect to Plato's allegory of the cave and Baudrillard's simulacra theory, and they position the central theme of truth versus illusion. So what we've done there is we've gone back to each of these and we've used all of these elements in having one moment where this would be one point. Obviously more would need to go into it, but this would be one point where we would be analyzing, bringing in those elements so that we can actually answer the question. Okay, so if we have to break that down, the technique we're discussing is color symbolism. The purpose, okay, to symbolize, the Wachowskis created this. Their purpose was to symbolize the choice between reality and illusion, or truth and comfort. the effect it had on the audience. It forces the viewers, forces the audience to imagine their own choices, to create identification with Neo's dilemma. Remember, when we're watching the movie, we, as human beings, we can't help but put ourselves in that position. So the effect it has on us is that we have to analyze our own choices, right? We are there with Neo making those choices. We can identify with his issue, with his challenge, with his dilemma. Finally, the theme, truth versus illusion, freedom versus control. We're connected through to those philosophies that we've learned about. Again, so how do we do the analysis, right? We first of all identify the techniques that we can talk about, especially related to the question. Now, if you haven't done already, go back and watch the video on how to pick your question, how to break up your question, understand it, and then actually build your thesis from it. That's critical to this. But when we're actually answering it in our 3 points, 3 paragraphs, we identify the technique, we describe where it appears, okay, we have to give them context to what we're explaining over here. Don't just assume that the person knows what we're talking about. And then we explain the director's purpose, why this technique was actually chosen, what the intended purpose the director had in mind, because now we're interpreting something, right? And it's not a case of being right or wrong. It's we need to show that we are actually interpreting. And finally, we connect it to the impact on the audience and the theme, the broader theme, and how it connects through to the wider world. That is something that we can add to this process. Is what is the wider world significance of this today? So a couple of ways to check if you are actually analyzing. Could someone who hasn't seen the film answer this? If your paragraph could be written by someone who's merely just read the plot, you're only describing it. You're not analyzing it. It goes much deeper into the actual elements that we're talking about in terms of this analysis. If you're just summarizing the plot, then someone who hasn't seen the movie would pretty much understand what you were saying, right? You're just telling a story. So warning signs of this could be sentences like then or next, focusing on what happens instead of why it matters. We are always going much deeper into why it actually matters. Okay. Then some signs that you are actually analyzing is when you're explaining why the Wachowskis made certain creative choices. Remember, everything within the Matrix was a creative choice. From the color of Morpheus's tie when he goes to see the Oracle, and she's also wearing green, right? To the writing on the wall, "Know thyself," written in green. There's a significance to that. You need to explain why it actually matters, even if the average person is probably going to not even be aware of this. Okay, so if you're talking about the audience's feeling, what the audience is feeling or thinking, you're linking it through to philosophical ideas, these overarching themes, and added to this, I'm going to say this wider world context of why it still matters today. So again, just to restate our point, we're going to identify those techniques, we're going to describe them, we're going to explain them, we're going to connect them, the impact on the audience, the theme of the wider world relevance today. Okay, I think that's pretty much all you need to concern yourself about this, but good luck. I know you guys are going to do great. If you have any questions, please let me know.